Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, ghosts and Ghostbusters alike. Today we have the return of the voice of the Ghost of Halloween, and joining us, plus this time two of the writers instead of just one, the writers of Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed. Ryan and James, it's good to see you. Elyse, it's fantastic to see you. It's been since New York since I first met you.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you all of you for making the time to come out and hang out with us, and I guess let the community get to know you a little bit better, and maybe even a little bit of the behind the scenes of Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed.
Thanks for having me. I also wanted to point out I am the ghost, or I'm the voice of Easter. Ryan doesn't
what?
get all the acclaim here.
Yeah,
so-
let's take this off me. This is Elise time, so
No, I was
please.
Wait, what is the
kidding.
voice of Easter?
Maybe it's
The
to keep
other-
your eyes peeled. Who knows?
it's-
Maybe there's a new DLC coming.
It's very wet and disgusting. Sounds identical to Samhain. Most people don't realize. Have we
you
talked
have a
about that? About
bunny
how one
head?
of the
Wetness.
one
Yeah,
of the, the
well,
wetness
most people
of
don't realize
Samhain.
that the wetness. I think that's like I'm pretty sure that we talked about it so much that I've seen like articles written about it. Where they're like,
Yeah, that was
wetness
very
is a
fun to
feature.
delve into the last stream. We did talk a little bit about the wetness. So we got Ryan and James' perspective.
Good.
What was your perspective on the whole salivating over the pop filter?
I thought it was the perfect note to give for that character, and Ryan executed it on it, and I felt incredibly bad for whoever had to sterilize that pop filter after he used it.
I mentioned that they could just throw it away or burn it. Like, those things are only so expensive. But like, you guys saw. I asked James. He said you couldn't see through the glass. It actually dripping, but like, it was that gross. And you remember? I hope you remember. Like, after like the first take, I looked at everybody and I was like, "Is this okay?" and you were like, "Yeah, go for it, go
Is
for it."
what I'm doing legal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
You
"Am I
should-
gonna?"
You should become the voice actor who has a reputation for a wet performance, so much so that you have to bring your own pop
Own
filter
pop
with you.
filter? Yeah.
And
Just
then
like
what
a
ends
little
up
shower
happening is
cap
in
we
the
put on
future,
mic.
they'll just take your pop filters and they'll put them in the Hall of Fame, and they'll be like, Ryan Colt's Levy, real DNA all over these things.
Yeah.
Gross.
In the inevitable Game Awards Museum, next to the Grammy
The
Museum.
inevitable Game Awards Museum, of course. Yeah.
Mhm.
It'll be right next to the LACMA.
Well, speaking
No,
of,
it's actually right next to the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
speaking of this kind of stuff, spooky season is upon us. Do you guys have any plans for this Halloween? What are some Halloween traditions, like movies, books, like scary games? Like, what do you guys normally do around this season?
I feel like you
Um,
guys have built-in traditions by now, right?
Yeah, I mean, we like to. We're in Southern California, so we try and find people that have the space, time, and energy to do really good like yard decorations, and we'll just kind of like get in the car and just like drive around. Sometimes we'll get some friends, and then we'll like all pack into the car and just like ping things on Google Maps and drive all over Los Angeles trying to find some. That's something that we'll do on random nights, and it's surprisingly entertaining.
I would
me.
have to imagine that the decorations out here go pretty extreme. I mean, like, it's so weird. I've been out here for 8 years now, and I haven't really, like, I've only done maybe, like, 2 Halloween parties, and I don't get too far out of my own neighborhood that night, and I feel like there are some people who, like, probably go bananas with their budget on their lawn and
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, there's a website called SoCal Haunt List where you can submit your home to it and say, "Hey, I'm
Of course.
doing a really elaborate yard display, or maybe I'm building a maze in my yard, and I want to submit so people can go and find my address to come check it out."
That's awesome.
And so that's really a really good resource. I think, especially in the Valley here, it's Los Angeles. Everybody's a little bit off kilter, so Halloween is the holiday.
Yeah.
I think so.
That's cool that you guys have like a website for like documenting these are real cool houses. Like, come check my house out. I come from
I'm
the
fully taking advantage of that.
I come from the tiny state of Connecticut, and no one really does. I don't think
Oh.
we have like a format for that. So what ends up happening is that you're driving in the middle of the night in a dark forest, because that's most of what Connecticut is, and then you just come upon like a shower of multicolored lights, and someone's just lit up their entire front yard with thousands of dollars in like Halloween decoration,
That's
just completely decked out. It's just like you find
That's
these little
cool.
hidden gems.
I bet you probably have like just naturally beautiful like a fall experience. Like we have to craft
Oh
it
yeah.
here.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's not bad here in Colorado either, but yeah, I've do you guys get fake leaves and stuff like that?
I don't think I've seen anybody commit to fake leaves. That would actually be a whole other level of commitment.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
that is something. I was just back in New York though, and there it feels like Halloween in full swing. Like the temperature's right, the leaves are perfectly changing. Like everyone's decorations are out. It's awesome.
Well, real quick, while we're here, we might as well just chat and do a little bit of gaming at the same time. Well, we can keep on the Halloween conversation. I'm just going to switch the scenes and we can get into a ghost bounty. I just wanted to show everyone off, show everyone your guys' characters. You got James was talking about the muscle slider. We're going to need a few more muscly options in the game.
Yeah,
before
so
we started,
I want to call attention to, if you look at this eye, we were bringing up the
eye's so cool.
vascularity.
Yeah.
You know, something for sure that needs to be added with the muscle slider. It's pretty imperative, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because mass is one thing, but leanness is another, and to not delineate between the two seems short-sighted.
Yeah, you might need like 3 different sliders for all of this, but you know, I feel like it's not egregious. It's it's necessary.
And
Yeah,
the
I
most
agree.
fun part about this stuff, where you guys offer your fun criticisms, is that I saw Jared in the chat, and I'm sure Jordan has people on our team have their stream pulled up to the side while they work, and you guys just go to them. Make
Jared
our
who?
characters more muscly.
Jared who?
Well, we should talk. If we're going to talk about story, we can't talk about story without talking about Jared, because so much of this is his brainchild
The
and
king,
baby.
yeah, the true
and
king.
Direction.
Yeah.
And
I'm arguably the biggest Ghostbusters nerd out of all of us.
yes,
I mean, not
argu-
arguably.
I think confirmed.
Yeah, confirmed. Yeah.
Confirmed.
So just from the beginning, huh? Like, I guess, did he tell you about how he came up, or you guys came up with like the story in general, like kind of together?
I mean, Jared himself is just, I would say, like, 90% of the story is Jared's brainchild and baby. He has that vision for it, and coming into it, he came to us and said, "This is what I'm thinking for the story. Like, it'll feel episodic, and then kind of we get to like play in that playground of his ideas and his machinations." Which is,
he's also
fun place to be.
way closer to the development side. So like us with the story, we're like, oh well, then they'll go to this place and they'll go to that place, and he was like, for this game, the strongest thing we should do is we should make the story happen within the firehouse, because this is the first time people are going to experience this place and like kind of this team again in a really long time, and we want to establish it in the firehouse. So like setting those, because there really weren't limitations. Limitation sounds like you could do something more with it, but setting the gates for the story and being like very clearly like, this is where we should set it, this is how it should kind of progress and move, here's how an episode should feel. Those were like super pivotal things that were already in place.
Yeah, it looks like that's great. So he kind of like just sets the bounds for you guys to play within, and then you guys kind of get to go crazy within that realm.
Yes, but he also has just that top level vision of here's where I think it would be amazing if Winston got possessed. Let's put Winston front and center, and then how about we bring Samhain into this as the big baddie? Like those are definitely those like big story elements that he's got whirling around in his wild brain and is piecing them together, and then trusts us to help execute on.
Real quick, I'm just gonna re-invite you guys. But yeah, we can keep on this topic.
Okay.
Sorry. Just...
Yeah, I think another thing too. I don't know how much we want to get into it, but because like obviously this latest DLC drops a whole new section to the story, introduces a whole new villain, but it's still an extension of it. So if you're playing it for the first time, the Ecto Edition, you're gonna get this story.
Massive.
But if you had bought the game at launch a year ago, you still would have gotten a story, but it would have been, I want to say, like half as much. And that was a really fun thing too, because when we were going in before launch, or I mean long before launch, when we were just doing it, the one of the interesting things was we were like, how do we wrap this all up? We want to have like a big fight or like a showdown or a big villain. Who's pulling the strings? And it was kind of fun coming up with what is now, I guess, a temporary resolution for that narrative. But then after the game came out, going, well, we plan to support this game. We have so much that we're working on for it, that one of the things we're most exciting about is those things you wanted about having a big bad villain, big scary guy, and a big fight, a big showdown. We can do that now. And so that was a real exciting thing, because we didn't even start, Elyse and I didn't start working on that until after the game launched a year ago.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, how long did you guys know that you wanted like the big boss fight in the game? Or I guess how long have you known that you wanted someone as big as Samhain to make a return and come to the game?
I mean, I think we always wanted that, Elyse and I, because we come from just like writing movies and TV and traditional narrative stuff, whereas games are way more interactive. And so for us, we were like, all right, like, what's the hero's journey of the character? And like, how do we have like a big climax? And that was a fun thing of working with everyone at IllFonic, because they were like, the climax is always the fun thing about a game is the climax is always happening. You have these action beats that are constantly reinforcing the excitement of the game. But then when it came time and they were like, we have the resources to do this, it made it even better. And Jared was the one who was like, and we're gonna go with Samhain because of how much he meant to Jared as a supervillain of the Ghostbusters franchise.
Yeah,
but then
I think it's like he is like, you know, in terms of iconic Ghostbusters villains, especially if you pull from sources like real Ghostbusters, like you think Samhain.
Yeah,
you
for
know.
sure. Ryan, go ahead and ready up real quick,
Oh,
and then we'll get back into the game.
Am I missing it? I'm still in the weird loading area.
Oh really? Are you in the
Like,
firehouse?
No, like I'm just like on the like tips and tricks like loading screen.
Oh, okay.
Your character is showing in the firehouse, but maybe.
Oh, weird.
Alright.
So something.
Let's figure it
I
out.
was
yeah.
I was unsure as to why that happened.
Go and
Let's see.
restart your game, and I'll just shoot you another invite then.
Yeah.
I mean, really, adding all that story was just a ruse to get Ryan to do that voice, really and truly.
I was so excited when I got the email for that, because I mean, obviously I loved working with you guys on the previous game, and then when we finally got to meet last year, there was like an immediate, just like, I immediately fell in love with you guys, and
you.
and yeah, it was something where I was like, I knew. Sorry, I'm just making sure this is working on my end.
Oh no,
I knew
do what you gotta do.
how much fun it was. Your writing was so good on the first game, and I knew that you were going to like absolutely slay doing this. So when you guys brought me in, like, I had already seen and played a little bit of the game and was already just like, as a nerd and a Ghostbusters fan, so psyched that it was you guys. And then doing it is just pure joy.
Well, I mean,
I'm in.
likewise, your
Made it.
performance in Arcadegeddon was such a standout, and like so much so that I know James has talked about this before, but like when James first heard your VO sample, like called me over and was like, "Oh my God, have you listened to this guy doing Skedaddle? Like, he's so good."
he turned
talking last time,
gibberish
it's like,
British somehow.
Yes. How do you make gibberish sound British?
Yeah.
Well, it was genuinely like, I know it just sounds like we're volleying compliments, but the truth is, it was, the writing is so good that you know how it has to sound. Like it's like one of those weird things where if the writing is good enough, I know what it needs. Like I don't have to think as much as just, oh, I'm just going to say this thing because I know where the inflections need to go and how it needs to sit based on what you're asking. So it was just like playtime for me.
Oh, thanks.
It says you invited me, but I don't have anything popping up anywhere.
Let's see if we can find that.
Technology.
Yes. Technology indeed.
If you shift F3, is there anything?
I think he's on PS5, so it's a little different.
That
I make it super
cross-compatibility.
complicated, you know.
No, it's all good. Putting the crossplay to the test.
I also just want to say that. Oh, sorry. Do you need to say something specific to the game?
No, go for it.
Oh, I just wanted to say that, like, I kind of in the way that when I go to Disneyland at Halloween, I wish that the Nightmare Before Christmas was the default haunted mansion. I really love the firehouse decorated for Halloween.
Mhm.
Like, it's just so cozy. The flavor.
I'm gonna
so
miss these
good.
pumpkins when they're gone. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that
is
there's like
it-
this pumpkin on a stove upstairs too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's fully on, and we're now the choice is like if these are real pumpkins, it might smell really nice, and then it's gonna go rotten real quick. And if they're fake, everyone has to worry about toxic poisoning right now.
Eddie is definitely the character who would absentmindedly place a pumpkin on the top of the stove, and then,
And then
he'd
just
go
kind
to
of let it
he'd go back into his office, his lab to do
tinker
something.
away. Yeah.
One thing I don't want to stray too far from the Ghostbusters subject because you guys were talking about the voice acting, but I also did notice while looking at some of your history, at least, that you were also a voice actor in Arcade for one of our characters, our gang leaders.
Yeah, I was. It was very, very cool to have that. James as well. Did,
Yeah.
some
Oh,
work for
then I
that.
missed that credit. James, which character
It-
were you?
Leader Grimm.
Oh, okay. So wow, we have
Uh,
you guys are all pro actors and
They're
voice
pros.
actors.
it was very cool. It was very cool to
Well-
be so close to that game and to have that opportunity was
I mean,
really neat.
I think we mentioned it on the last stream, but part of the reason, the only reason we're doing this is because we just kind of on a lark were asked to come in and do some voices for Predator, as just nameless soldiers, right?
Mhm.
And in the VO session, which are, if you've ever done VO for a video game, which not everyone has been as lucky enough to do, but it doesn't look like reading a script always. Sometimes it'll look like an Excel spreadsheet, and it'll just be
Right.
like you just need to say grenade out like 5 or 6 times, or whatever. And so we were lucky enough to come in and work on Predator just purely as just those things, just reading out like get down and all this stuff. But Elyse and I in the sessions were like making it funny, like we were adding things, and Jared was like, I appreciate that. That's not what we need in this game right now, but I will keep that in mind if I ever need someone who has like ideas
smart
about
ass
how
who can't
to
just say, "Get down."
dialogue things in the future. And then time passed, but then that time ended up coming that he called and he was like, hey, would you be interested in working on Arcadegeddon, because we have the time and we need the room for people to do those things you did in the booth.
Yeah, and
That
we
is so freaking cool.
You were rewarded for your creativity. Ryan, real quick,
Mm-hmm.
could you check in the top right? Do you have like another like story act narrative thing you might have to do?
Oh, maybe. Bust more ghosts and explore the ghost realm, but I don't know why I should be doing that. Does it want me to...
Does it say EXP left for unlock next act?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll send you one more invite, and then hopefully that one should work.
again, I'm excited to play, but just being
Oh,
in the
wait, it said-
firehouse is so nice.
It said you've invited me to play in the top left, and then it just disappeared.
Do you hit? Where are my PlayStation Pros? in the chat?
PlayStation Home button. I don't have a
Yeah.
PlayStation controller in front of me.
Yeah, you might want to hit that home button and then see if you can hop in that way, or go to your friends, or go to
Let's see.
the invite friends table on the main floor of the firehouse.
Oh, wait. We got it.
Garrison in
Sweet.
chat said Elyse best VO in Arcade Predator and Ghostbusters. Best ever.
100%. 100%.
Well, I was hoping that since I have all you here, I would ask maybe you guys read off some of your, or not read off, but like perform some of your favorite lines, just from whatever you can remember.
Oh,
I just spit
man.
all over the screen.
Yes.
I was saying, let me see if I can find some Samhain scripts.
I can perform some unrelated, but I can perform some Tobin.
Some Tobin. I would love to hear your Tobin. I saw that you
Yes.
played a couple of civilians.
Ooh, ghosty.
I love his little nuanced ghosty, his little idiosyncrasy that he's always saying that. I just want to, sorry to I don't want to derail that question, Albert, but I just want to point
It's all
out that
good.
in Ray's bookstore there is a pumpkin that has a book open in front of it as if it's reading it, and
All
that
right,
is such a
that's
cute
awesome.
detail.
I'm going over there right now to check that out.
It's right there. It's great.
Oh, that's very good. Yeah.
Our team is just so
And he's
good at
reading
hiding
to a
those
little
little
pumpkin.
Easter eggs. One thing that's I believe it was Scott on my team pointed out to me is right where you spawn. A lot of the times when you spawn in front of the Ecto-1, but like you don't bother really turning around. There's this little closet, and they hid a pumpkin in here, just on top of the
What?
boxes.
Secret
that's great.
pumpkin.
Oh,
Just
that's
peeking
that's
out.
great. Oh man, the Halloween firehouse is so good.
Is it gonna disappear like right after Halloween?
I
Please let
think
it stay. Please let it stay.
it'll stay
Yeah.
for I think a little bit. I don't think it's going away immediately after Halloween, but I don't know the specific date. One thing that was, back to the voice acting thing, one thing that was really surprising is the first time we had Ryan on, I did a bunch of research and like listened to his reel and looked at a bunch of his stuff, and I felt like a lot of the characters, like you have like a really good range for a lot of your characters, but Samhain was just like, when I finally played through the story act, I was like, there's no way that's Ryan. Like that is insane.
Fucking wild.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it's also like the team did an incredible job with all the effects and stuff that they put on top of it. It's like, it is a team effort to do something like that completely. So I just loved getting to I loved being thought of to be that crazy and gross, because I feel like normally people don't think of me for that. So it was such a treat.
Yeah, and I know we don't have a studio set up or anything, but what would be one of your favorite lines that you remember from?
I
Samhain?
remember honestly, his very first line. I remember that was "Have you prepared this realm for its inevitable fate, Harbinger?" And there was just something about like we just kind of immediately, yeah. There was something there where we found the guttural grossness, and then it was like, okay, from there we can let it rip.
I mean, I think Jared also had this like really, really clear.
He had a total vision of what
Vision
he
for it,
wanted
too.
from it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, one of the things Jared said to us was he should always have pumpkin seeds spilling out of his mouth when he talks.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot of really, really great kind of visual ideas that you guys were throwing at me in the session that made it so easy to like find whatever it is that we needed for each line, because I feel like it wasn't always like, okay, this one just has to be drippy. It was like, there were nuances to what you guys needed out of everything, which is what makes it so fun.
It should
Oh, there's
sound
a
as if he's rotting from his inner core.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
So,
Oh, got another
Ryan, I
trap.
know you don't have a pro mic and sound booth around you, but do you wanna rip that line for us? Is that appropriate to ask of you?
Let me try. Let me
Yeah.
try.
Oh, there goes. There, get everyone put on your umbrellas.
Yeah, hold up.
Hold on,
I'm gonna stand in front
hold
of
on,
you
I've got-
for extra effect.
Let me get some liquid in here.
Oh god. God.
You were drinking a lot the day. of.
Yeah.
Gotta stay well hydrated for that kind of. All right, let's see it.
Yeah. I was also screaming all morning at another gig, so hopefully it's we'll see.
Yeah, if you need to protect your vocal cords, by all means, you don't really have to do too much.
Oh,
Don't go too
right, all right. This
100%.
is where it gets fun.
Destroy those cords, Ryan.
Yeah, go for it.
Good for us.
Just ruin them. Have you prepared yourself? Wait, what? This realm? Yeah, this realm. There we go. Have you prepared this realm for its inevitable fate, Harbinger?
Jeez, man, that is so
Pretty
sick.
good. It's pretty good.
Compared to
Just
other
got
characters
slimed.
that you voice, was that voice more demanding on your vocal cords, or did it place a bigger strain, or kind of how did it comparably comparatively sort of shake out?
No, it wasn't bad. I mean, I think because it was also, it was like so condensed. I think we had like, what was it, 3 sessions I think at most for it, and it wasn't like he was really screaming a lot. It was way more just kind of like sitting in that weird space. So like it was a fun challenge because I don't have a very deep voice, so it was like sitting there and keeping it strong and consistent can definitely be, more of an effort, but it's fun and it doesn't like strain at the end of the day. Whereas like I've done some jobs where for hours they're just asking you to like scream like a nut job, even out, it's like even with Chainsaw, where that's like got a ton of screaming, there's still so much that is just dialogue. But I've done games and things where they're like, whether it's a war game or something like that, and you're just doing a lot of the, like kind of James was saying, like you're screaming grenade or whatever, and that's the stuff that really tires you out because it's always at the same kind of like decibel level, whereas this, at least, like it's way more about the performance and the nuances of that. So it really wasn't as rough like physically as it was like making sure mentally we were kind of like getting it right. Because the weirdest part I think about our job, even as writers, is like being in headspaces that you don't normally sit in, and like being really just mean and evil and gross and all that stuff, and then in between takes we're like giggling like little kids, it's like, so it's that funny weird thing where you just like being able to just kind of sit in that space and make it as genuine as you can is the fun challenge.
There's something that like so joyful and that sparks such giddiness when I get to see one of these characters that we've been writing and working on manifested and have life breathed into. Like it sounds so cheesy and corny, but it's such an amazing feeling to hear somebody read your words and say them in exactly the way you intended it to be said.
That was what I was going to ask you. That was what I was curious about, because I always wonder, like, it's not all the time that I get to be in a session with the writers. Sometimes you'll get that privilege, but like I love having that immediate access to feedback and understanding, or even just taking the notes right away. But I've always been curious, even just project to project, like when you write something versus getting an actor there, how often you're like, oh, that's exactly what we wanted, or if you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, but that's even better than what we thought, or you're like, oh crap, that's not, we're not getting it, how do we find it,
that immediate feedback I'm sure is super helpful.
I think from what I've seen, and albeit I'm not like a seasoned voice director or anything, like we also had other directors present for different sessions and stuff, but and I think that it was also amazing that the fact that so many of the actors involved with this, of course, are seasoned in the way of like Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, you, Rahul, like everybody, comes from.
It's very nice that you put me in that same list, but there's a sliding scale.
I think you are. But I think every actor has their own process too, where like I may not, you may not hear it on the first 2 takes, but then, and you're like, oh no, like, do they get this? Are they gonna get it? But then by the third one, if they nail it completely, or there's someone that comes out the gate and it's, right on the first take, you're like, oh, okay, they get it. But there were no, in my mind, there were no weak points in the cast for this game. Like everybody just brought it so much. It was so incredible to see. James, how do you feel about it?
I agree. Like,
James
I feel
is like, fire them all, replace them, start over.
Should be more James.
I just think it's fun. Like, it's a fun process because everyone involved, I feel like, really wants to make something great, but there isn't so much ego that you ever feel like you're dealing with someone who presumes that it will be great just by default, right? And so, like, as we're writing, we're like, this feels right, but like, We hope we don't get into the booth. Oh my God, Ryan, you just barreled into this guy.
Yeah, I was like, did I just knock that person over? Like, yeah.
They went flying.
Fully
but
screwed them.
I was like, I hope this feels right. And then you get into the booth, and then you're like, oh, we have like another person who's getting to interpret that material through a new lens, their lens, right?
Right.
But then even that, like working with you, it's like you have no ego. You're like, it's all about a conversation. How would this character sound? You know. And then the end result from that is you take that file and then you trust a sound engineer to do incredible things with it, and then you trust someone to integrate that into the game, and like the end result is a lot of humble people who are really talented making something that is way more than any individual could have done on their own, and I think that's really cool.
That is so perfectly said. Like that I think a lot of people with like all art, you know, especially with games and film, you know, where it is this massive team effort of so many different people, it's so often that it gets reduced down to the people you either see on screen or like maybe just like the writer and director, whatever it is, and there's so many people involved to make these things what they are. And I don't think any of us are in this industry. I mean, sure, there's every now and then you got someone who's just an egomaniacal nut job, but for the most part, we all get into this because we just love collaborating with each other and telling stories and seeing these things
cool
come
stuff.
together. Yeah, like making cool stuff together, and like there's such a joy and camaraderie and like building off each other's ideas and sharing that space, because there's something really boring to me about going in, even for me, going in as an actor to a session and being like, I've got this on lockdown, and just going in and doing it and people being like, perfect, no notes, whatever, like, and you know, I want to know that the tone is right for the director, or that we're, you know, exhausting all of our options, you know, for tone or flavor or whatever it is, you know, and I'm there to play, so, you know, I'm surprised sometimes there'll be jobs where it's like they almost, for whatever reason, it's almost like they think the actor wants to like be done and move on, and like they'll apologize if they ask you for like extra takes on things or whatever, and I'm like, that's what I'm here for, you know.
That's what you love doing.
Yeah, like let's try all the things, even if it doesn't work. Like, I'm there to make an ass out of myself. It's okay.
Do you ever walk into a job with like you have one frame of mind for what the character might sound like, and then you walk out of it and you're like, that came out entirely different by the end of that?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like it's more rare that I go in and I know exactly what it is and it stays that way. You know, sometimes that will be the case, but way more often, you know, I go in there with an idea and then the director has something, or there's something brought to the table that either, you know, like a lot of the time, sometimes it's just story information that you're suddenly privy to on the day, because you know how sometimes working on this stuff, it's like you don't, you may not be working from the beginning of the story, you may not have all the details where you're coming in as a character, whatever it is. So having just a frame of knowledge of what you need to execute sometimes completely changes the energy that you go into a session with, you know.
So like Samhain, was that at all what you walked in thinking, like, we're gonna come out with this slobbering?
No. I mean, I knew, because we had kind of loosely talked about stuff, but I remember I watched I went back and watched clips, because I watched the cartoon as a kid. That was so my jam. So I went back and I watched those clips and at least was digesting that in case that was where we were going to take it. I wasn't quite sure fully how we were going to play it. If it was going to be more humorous, you know, I didn't know tonally what we were going to be doing fully. And the more it was just like, no, be like mean and gross and bad and like really play this like awful, you know, make him scary, was so fun and not expected, and I really loved it.
Yeah, you really ride the line of, like, I mean, I want to say you, but like, you know, the writing, the acting, I mean, the character's direction in general really rides the line super well of cartoonishly evil, but like genuinely kind of evil and scary as well.
Thanks very much.
It's so freaking fun.
I want to say something real quick because we've said his name several times.
Okay,
Samhain.
yes. Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we're all aware of the pronunciation,
the Celtic
conversation surrounding
origins.
this character's name. I
Samhain?
did see
Samhain.
a one. I don't think it was a review. It was just kind of talking about it. That had like a caveat that was like, even though everyone gets the pronunciation wrong, I love the character, and I just want to point out that all of this is factored in. If you talk to Ray, if you have a conversation with Ray at the right time in the story, because we wanted to make it a fully realized world where you can go and interact with the characters a bunch, you get some clarification on why and how from Ray. We're trying to resolve the multiverse or whatever of all of this.
Well, of course,
to the
Ray
best
would
of our
know
abilities.
that
So I do.
the Celtic origins of this
Yeah.
harvest festival is Samhain.
Samhain,
I'm
right?
still pushing for Sammy Hainvis Jr., but I think I'm losing that battle.
I also want
to
to say that people being a fan of the series that are involved, even Dan Aykroyd, when we were recording with him, was like, "What are we doing to pronounce this?" He was fully aware of everything surrounding it and all of the back and forth on the name and stuff and how we plan to handle it. So I thought that was really funny.
No, it's super cool to hear about like his thoughts on the writing and I guess the project in general. I guess what are some other cool tidbits that you guys got to now that the first time we had Ryan and James on, we didn't get to talk too much about the story just because spoilers and the update wasn't out yet. But what are some cool behind the scenes like stories that you guys and things that you guys ran into working on the project that you would like to talk about?
I mean, I mean, one of the things for me, I got slimed real bad. I'm really focused on this game. One of the things for me that is really fun is, which I kind of already touched on, was how, we had this idea for some bigger part of the story to tell that we kind of like tapered back for the first launch of it. And one of our big questions was like, Nameless he's not capable enough to handle this on his own.
He's not final boss material.
He's not
quite.
final boss material. He's great.
He's a sniveling minion.
He's a harbinger, right? Like he's someone who like warns of something or is a symptom, right? He's not the disease. And we had a lot of conversations about that when we were first putting the game together. And so I was really happy that we got to do something with that, and so, and then not necessarily knowing that was going to be Samhain, I thought it was like even better that that's who they ended up going with. I thought that was such a fun thing. That's my little tidbit.
I also I love his design of the game. The first time you dropped the tease of his hand on the car, I got so excited.
Have you gotten to play him or play versus him yet?
No, not yet. Not yet. I was away in New York the whole time when it all finally dropped, and then I just got back, so I was like, I want to try and catch it in time, but I'm going to, because I can't wait to go through the whole thing. I saw someone already, the day it dropped, I want to say within a few hours, someone had commented, and they're like, "I'm already playing as him," and I'm like,
"Yeah."
I
so
think that
game,
was also
if you're at a certain level already, and it'll kind of just unlock all the story acts, and you get to play through all of them, progressing from a certain point when the story was just nameless before Samhain was introduced.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. It's also the first time when you play this game, you'll notice you're versus the ghost type, and then they have variants, and so each type normally has the same ult and different unique abilities, whereas when you play against Samhain in the boss fight, it's he gets all of the unique abilities of the Overlord type class, so he's throwing 3 different unique abilities at you, plus his ultimate spawning rifts left and right.
Yeah.
It really does feel like infinite night is coming, and it's this kind of terrifying boss fight experience. It was really cool to watch on launch day, like a lot of our experienced players even lose to the boss fight. I'm like, I kind of thought that they would, like, these guys have so many hours in the game. Like, I wasn't really sure what to expect, but it was really fun to see even experienced players combat this final boss level character.
So cool. I love also the trailer for the new DLC is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Everything
shout
put
out
together
to
really well.
shout out to some people on my team for that. They're really good at what they do.
It's so good. Everybody, like, that's the thing that, you know, even what we were talking about before, just how many people are involved in making this an experience. You know, it's so much more than just a, you know, I feel like it's reductive to call video games just video games. It's so much more than that. And now, you know, especially like when we were growing up, you know, it didn't have so many of the parts involved now. And now even just what like the demand of an audience is to be entertained by playing a game, it asks so much of a development team, and like you guys do it so gracefully and do so much cool stuff. There's so many great little like just interactive things, but also references for like OG fans, and there's so much love and care. So
yeah, I would also encourage you, if you're new to the IllFonic streams, or you're new today watching this stream, IllFonic does these streams with more members of the dev team regularly, and you'll hear about all parts of the process, because we are just
we're so much better at the game than we are.
we are just such a you know, we're a sliver of it, right? We're we're not you know, this game is the sum of its parts, and we are just but one part. And so I think it's fascinating when I get the opportunity to talk to other people at the company and hear about what they're contributing, what they're doing.
I will say my IllFonic, the whole team is freaking incredible, and then I also appreciate that we have people like you guys are like the talent pretty much of the game. Like, oh wow, I just insta-capped that ghost. Woo! You just walked into my trap.
Well, you guys have the tools and the talent,
nice,
though.
Elyse, nice.
Okay.
There you go. Did you write that line?
No, that's a classic Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
One thing that we did talk about last time while you weren't here, I was talking to James about like certain lines and writing certain things, and he gave you a lot of the credit for writing a lot of like Ray's lines and a lot of the more whimsical stuff. What was kind of like the experience of delving into like the mind of a character like Ray, or even just writing for like a classic IP like Ghostbusters?
It's daunting to try to take on an IP that has so much history and so much reverence, and hope that you can embody it and execute it in a way that especially the fandom is receptive to. With a character like Ray, I'm Canadian. I know Ray isn't Canadian. Dan Aykroyd, at least I feel like he brings that sensibility to that character. And of course, like, you have a blueprint for a character, which, you know, can work for and against you, because it informs the character. You already know their nuances, you know where they're coming from, their character, but then you also need to think like, well, how do I accurately then in this place in their life or in this situation best embody that character again? So it's at times, like, you're like, I don't want to feel like I'm writing glorified fan fiction for this character.
Yeah.
I want people to think like this is actually genuine to it. And with Ray, also, like, if I had written it alone, he would have been like too dialed up on the like whimsical goober scale, I think.
Whimsical goober scale.
Because I love that about Ray, that he's a scientist, and he thinks in a very methodical way, but he's also just so excited about everything. Like, he has this childlike wonder that he brings to the field. And
yeah, it's true. It's different. It's different than the enthusiasm that the other guys have. He is like a big kid with it.
Well, like Venkman, he's the cynic.
Yeah.
Ray is the enthusiast, and Egon is the scientist, right?
Oh,
like
you know what? We were talking about this last time with, we didn't get to ask Elyse, though, of like, But I guess we know who you most identified with as a Ghostbuster.
I mean, like growing up, you mean, or now?
Yeah.
Both. Give us both.
Both.
I'd love to hear.
Yeah, because I think we answered both. Yeah.
I think like as a kid, Bill Murray is so like, you know, Peter Venkman's he's fun. He's goofy. He's a smart aleck. But you know, as an adult now, definitely Ray, and also Winston, kind of the character that he's grown and developed into, where he carries a lot of this like weight on his shoulders. I think just as an adult, you're like, oh, man, I get
you're
where
the responsible one.
Yeah, Winston is, you know, the inmates are running the asylum, and Winston's just trying to wrangle them, and so you're like, I get it. He's trying to keep this operation going. And so I do really love that the franchise has actually like empowered that character and given him
acknowledged his importance.
And his contribution. And I hope that in this game too, you see a version of Winston that is, you know, more in tune with
That's
what
I
that
love
character
most
deserves.
about this game, actually. That how much love Winston gets.
Oh, absolutely. It like one of my favorite. I can't remember the lines exactly, but in the trailer, he has this kind of line where it's like, I was just looking for a paycheck, like, and then he ends up becoming like the main boss, you know, like the entrepreneur that starts this whole ghostbusting business for all of us, you know, Spirits Unleashed players to enjoy. Was that kind of like a foundational building block in like writing the game? Is that something you guys came up with, or like Jared?
Well, I think it was really important for Jared to kind of like honor that character in the bigger story sense, and then also just as the conduit for the player, I think it really makes a lot of sense for Winston to have that role, because he was once kind of the outsider joining the team, and you know, you as this new recruit, that's essentially what you are too.
You can sympathize with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you've been slimed.
You got slimed real bad.
Yeah, I've
Looks
been
good
like
on you, though.
low-key like playing with the difficulty for each one of these, and this Toxie is pretty crazy.
Yeah, he keeps slipping through.
He gets some. He put the spot puts down some really well placed Toxie, or what is it called, the shock pillars. Those are real nice.
Oh, he's fast.
One of the things I realized, this is kind of a tangent, but while reading through some of like you guys' work history, I didn't realize at least that you're one of the civilians. I feel like if we walk around and calm enough civilians or run into them, we'll eventually hear your voice.
I hope not.
Elyse and I are both civilians in there.
The Ghost of Easter.
A funny thing about that is that when the game first launched, because we did those sessions, again, just a big Excel spreadsheet where we were just going, oh no,
I didn't mean
scared.
to ignore your part in it, James. My bad.
No,
it's very clearly labeled on her website.
But it's fun because we did it, and then the game came out and we were playing it. I was like, I don't hear it. We're not in it. I don't think, like, I heard so many different civilian voices. I do not hear us in this game. And then it turned out that I don't know how it works. Someone didn't flip a switch. That somehow those files never made it. They weren't in the game. We were not in the game.
No way.
And then we found out. I think
so
it was
I
with
threw
the
a fit.
Elyse, a big ego about that. But then I think it was maybe with the first DLC drop, whatever, that patch or whatever that fixed it. And then I went in to play the game some more, and now it's all I heard. All I heard was just Elyse and I running around. Every civilian, you know, was always us. It's just, yeah.
Isn't it weird? So, because now you guys can sympathize. Isn't it weird how you don't think until you start to hear it in that kind of a setting? Like, you're like, I won't notice my, like, breaths. Or, like, you know, like, weird, when you're like, ugh, like, stuff like that. You know, like, like, there's no way I'm going to pick myself out. And immediately you're like, oh, wait. Oh, God.
Yeah, that's me.
Yep.
Do you guys still have
So
that thing where it's
bizarre.
like you kind of cringe when you hear your own voice?
Yes, 100%.
I don't
I
cringe.
was like that. I was like that back when I was in my band, I used to not be able to listen to our songs, but it's different with this because I'm able to like lie to myself and be like, it's not me, it's the character. And I also genuinely, I'm so focused on enjoying all the pieces together of a thing. You know, it's everyone else's performances, whatever it is of the experience that I'm having with the story, all of that, that I'm pretty good at like just kind of forgetting that I'm there, even though I'm aware of it. It's like I don't really hyper focus on it, because if I did, I think I'd want to throw up.
Yeah. You gave credit to this earlier, which I also really enjoy, but I'm always really grateful to have people in a team, just in general, who are happy and willing to do something like come on stream and just chat and give some exposure to the people who love the IP and play the game, to see like, hey, these are the people who, like you guys say, you know, breathe the life into the game. Yeah, so that's super cool. That was just kind of like a thought I had. Did you just put on the alien mask?
Yeah.
Oh, I did.
Oh,
Change your
nice.
outfit in a very wild way.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What
Yeah,
were you saying, Ryan?
it's such a privilege and an honor and a pleasure to do these because, one, you know, you guys I adore, and two, to be a part of something this special and have, you know, the fans be so enthusiastic about it and to care, it's like, I'm so grateful for that, and I love getting the chance however I can to connect with and share this with everybody. It's just the best.
Well, speaking of our
Ghostbusters.
awesome community, real quick,
Yeah.
if you want a chance to win a Ghostbusters game key for any platform of your choice, go ahead and type ! giveaway in the chat. We're running a giveaway right now. It's actually the second one, but we're deep in conversation during the first one. I didn't want to interrupt.
Did you all talk much about Greg's performance?
Oh, we
I
didn't
don't
get into
think-
that.
Yeah, I don't think we got into that.
He is absolutely phenomenal. He
So
totally
good.
killed it.
I
That was
don't
another
know-
pleasant surprise, was getting to play off of him and do that stuff together and see that final product come together.
Yeah, if you don't know, Greg Miller is nameless, and he just nails it. So good.
He's a natural performer.
He plays
Yes.
the kind of sniveling minion so well. Like
Yeah, and he gives 110% to it.
Oh my god. Fully.
it's really fun to
incredible.
watch the switch up from like him being this like intimidating thing that's possessed Winston to like reduced to nothing but a puddle of slime and nerves, non-existing nerves when Samhain steps out of the rift.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
a jar.
And you know, and like we were talking about earlier, you know, when you're doing that voice acting performance, you're getting, you know, you're getting your lines, and you're not like necessarily riffing off of. You're not performing necessarily with someone.
Yeah, we didn't get
opposite
to
you.
play. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and
Well,
Greg is
that's
just pivoting in that way, and he's so good.
Yep, I mean that's the strength of someone who, I mean, I hope he does more stuff, because I think he is like truly an actor. Like he's, you know, I think a lot of people would be like, oh well, it's you know personality, just being a part of a thing, and like he's genuinely a great actor, and to be able to, as you said, you know, with scripts like this, it's like you're not necessarily working the picture, you're not working off of anything other than just these are your lines. You may get to see what the other character's saying to you, but you know, context is just, you know, the director giving you a note of you guys, you know, whatever it is, and to be able to know the tonal shift, how you have to play that stuff, how to respond with certain energy, it's you know, testament to how good he is.
Yeah, I also just think him being one of the biggest Ghostbusters fans out there, it's like such a part of his identity.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
then it's not like he just, you know, delivered a cameo. Like, he portrayed one of the main characters in the
Yeah.
game and just knocked it out of the park. Which
Oh yeah.
I like.
Slow your roll there, partner.
You don't get that, and he's. I'm so glad. It went.
That's
it
the
all went that
magic
way.
of the universe. Like, just kind of the universe works in mysterious ways, I think, with stuff like that. There's something, I mean, I think, you know, especially for our generation, all growing up on these things, being such big fans. I mean, you guys too, getting to write this. Like, when you got that call or that email, like, what was, you know?
I mean, you're just it's this that surreal feeling of like, no, there is no way that I'm working on a Ghostbusters game, and that still stays with you until now. Like,
Yeah, that stuff doesn't really go away.
no.
At least I don't think it does.
Can confirm I
Yeah.
had that feeling when I got hired here. It's
Yeah,
like,
you're
there's no
like,
way this is the thing.
I get to have an imprint on this thing that was so meaningful to me and is, you know, so iconic. Like, get out of here.
The
It's just-
first. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's it.
I was just gonna say the first reaction for me is how am I gonna screw up something that I
Yes.
love?
Yep.
How am I
that's
gonna
always
prove
the
myself
first
that I
thought, yeah.
didn't understand it at all? Like,
Well, that's, I mean, I feel like anytime I go into the booth, my first thought is like, I'm a fraud, and now everyone's gonna figure it out.
Yep.
So this,
There's
this
I thought that. I
feeling's
for sure
mutual.
thought that about you, Ryan.
Oh,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
kidding.
shots fired.
I-
Friendly stream
No,
gone
no,
to a
no,
fight
no.
stream.
I just flipped it.
Fight
No,
stream.
you're amazing. And yeah, that feeling of I shouldn't be touching this. I'm going to taint this. This is a bad decision, and like never goes away. I think.
I think that's like a safety mechanism, though, where it's like, it's almost like it's stopping you from screwing it up, because you are so hyper aware of it that you're like, I will keep my senses heightened. I will give this all the care, you know, like instead of, you know, I mean, none of these jobs should be approached too dully anyway. We're so privileged to have these careers, but it's one of those things where you're like, you can't just phone something like this in, you know?
Yeah, and there are definitely those times where whether you're in the VO booth or in a meeting with someone and you feel like you're having an out-of-body experience, like you're watching yourself.
Yeah,
doing it,
yeah,
it's
totally.
So surreal.
I mean, getting to be in this and to share it with, you know, people that I grew up as fans of, like, it's a very weird. You don't know that this is ever gonna happen. Even if you plan on, you know, as a kid, where you're like, oh, I could dream of doing all these kinds of things. You don't actually think it's really gonna happen.
Yep.
Did you guys grow up more with the like the real Ghostbusters or Extreme Ghostbusters, more just like the main movie franchise and stuff?
It was both for me. I watched the movies and the cartoon at, I feel like, the same time.
I didn't. Extreme Ghostbusters was after I had kind of aged out of it, or perceived that I've aged out of it, because I went back and because obviously there's some Extreme Ghostbusters DLC here, and it wasn't my first time experiencing it, but it was probably my first time like revisiting it outside of that like whole, you know, it was on TV. And I was like, oh man, this would have been great for me.
Yeah.
It's just like I would have loved this at the time. I just something about the extreme. There was like a period of time where everything became
Everything was
extreme.
extreme. Yeah.
Extreme, a little
and
edgy.
I was like maybe a year or so beyond like tolerating that and being like, I'm not gonna fall for this.
Yeah.
And so I never really got into it as much, but I definitely, as a kid, would have the movie. I had the movies on VHS, and I would pop them in all the time. And then I also had the, I always had the cartoon. I was always watching the cartoon, so kind of had them all.
Yeah, I was pretty similar, and I saw the movie very young, and didn't understand everything in it. It's, like, certainly the first time I saw
it definitely, yeah. I mean, like, there are layers of adult humor in that movie that you, like, you know, Ray in particular has a scene that when I was older, I was like, wait a minute!
Wait a hot second.
Yeah, wait a hot second indeed.
Yeah, I asked because the community knows, at least those who are regulars on the weekly stream, but I'm actually like a newer fan, and definitely a newer fan because of this game and because of the project that we've gotten to work on, or I've had the
that's
pleasure
awesome.
of working on. And because I grew up and I always knew of Ghostbusters, but I never really I hadn't watched the
It wasn't your
movies
thing.
up until I started working here, and I hadn't ever watched the real Ghostbusters stuff. And now I'm even like, I've played through. I'm almost done with the Ghostbusters the video game, like the old 2009 one.
Yeah.
And it's real cool to just like go back and explore and learn all the lore, especially with the community, because they're just like such avid fans and promoters of this IP that is so lovely that it's just so much fun to experience it with them as well.
Yeah, it has been really, because it was so nerve-wracking tackling something like this that does have so much reverence, and I think the community's been really awesome.
How's
Well,
everyone
it's
doing,
also-
like, on time, by the way?
We've got a little bit more time. I have a little bit more time at least.
I
Yeah,
can hang
me
for,
too.
for this one round, and then I probably have to dip
Yeah.
after that.
All right, good
Last
to know.
round.
Apparently, there's a
LG last game.
garbage truck doing its business right now. So
I-
sorry
I-
if there's clunking in the background.
I was gonna say
all
one of the great things about this game for me was that like I always knew that it was something I loved, and I knew that it was a beloved franchise. But kind of the game came out and became this lightning rod, and then I started getting to see like all the different outlets, like Shack News and Ghostbusters News, and all these these
Yeah.
hardcore. Even when we went for like the launch, and we got to hang out with a lot of like local Ghostbusters chapters and stuff.
That's so
Which
cool.
you find out is a
So
thing,
cool.
and then
Yeah,
it's like
Yeah.
exactly.
they all turn out to be awesome people. Like I haven't met a Ghostbusters group that I haven't gotten along with and I haven't loved. Like from domestic to the international. Like I
Yeah.
got the pleasure of meeting like the German Ghostbusters group too. They were awesome. And then the French Ghostbusters came in and like brought all their props in like their Ecto one and just like volunteered their
Yes.
time for the weekend. They're like, yeah, we're just happy to be here, man.
It's so cool seeing everybody's like homebrewed packs and stuff like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
It is incredible.
I will have to send you guys this. There is a person in our community. He's a regular in our chat. I'm not sure if he's here today, but he like builds and design packs. A lot of our community members do, but he builds and design packs. And this dude in particular made like a Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed pack that like you can toggle and cycle through like the music of the game, like almost like
that's
you're
cool.
like you're progressing through, like you're first at the firehouse, then through Ray's, then
Oh,
upstairs,
that's
and then
cool.
like in the game. It's crazy.
Oh, that's
I
neat.
see it.
People are so creative. It's incredible. I'm constantly blown away by the ingenuity of fan bases of these things. It is, especially now that people can 3D print stuff and just the technology, the way that people are so savvy, and especially getting to go to these conventions now,
Come look at this.
just seeing what people do with their cosplays. I'm waiting for a Samhain cosplay. Someone's got to do it.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
now's the time too.
Yeah, 'tis the
I'm
season
really-
for sure.
Oh my god, it would be so cool. I've seen the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man a few times, which I always love.
Ally of Stay Puft, or ally of Samhain.
Yes,
So I
of
feel like
course. He's,
I feel like
you know-
Samhain has no friends.
Well, I'd like to think like when the cameras aren't rolling, it's like, they all go back into the green room and they're just like sipping coffee, hanging out.
All right,
Got
well,
two
that
of
was
my contracts in that one. We dominated that one. I got two of my
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
contract
that
requirements
was over
for it.
fast.
yeah, that one is a super quick one. We calling that our last game? I know Ryan, you're the one with you got something to do, right?
Probably just because I have to get to a gig. Both
Yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately and fortunately.
So we dominated
I'm
it.
glad you
so
got another
it was a
gig,
good-
Yeah, that was. I was farming my contracts into the people in the chat, so I was just busting up all the windows and all the expensive stuff. Just to. I love that this game. has
Just
little
doing
things
damage
like-
for the heck of it.
Yeah, just do
Yeah.
750.
Winston's gonna get that bill.
Yeah.
We have the best insurance, man. That's all you need to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, well, I appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with me and
course.
the community. Last time I missed on this, but where are some places people can find you guys either on socials or like websites, or let the community get to know you guys a little bit better outside of the stream.
Oh, you can find me on Elyse Willems on social platforms. I also make a podcast called 30 Morbid Minutes because I do like spooky stuff in general. So if you're a Ghostbusters fan, you might. So you can check that out.
Is that like
And thank
a
you.
weekly thing, or what you
It's
talk about?
it's weekly. Yeah, it's weekly, and it's just kind of exploring and investigating morbid topics from the headlines or from history. sort of runs the gamut. And also, thank you so much for hosting this, Albert, and for having us here. It was really cool.
Yeah, always a
so,
pleasure.
So awesome of you.
Ryan, where can we find some of your stuff?
Same thing on the socials. Just my name, just Ryan Colt Levy. You could find me on Twitter and Instagram and all that. Whatever the technology babble is these days.
It's like I have people for that. And James, for yourself?
Pretty much the same. James Willems, JamesWillems.com, I guess, is also a main hub for everything, with the exception being Instagram, which is James Willems Feet.
Which is my favorite, like, weird reversal thing.
Yeah.
Because I think the first time I went to follow you there, I just put in your regular name, and I was like, wait a minute. And
yeah,
then,
it's just Feet.
and I was like, I don't know, like, this feels like the wrong account that I should be following.
Yep.
Feet as
It's
in
the
like
intended
your
effect.
feet, like with the toes, or feet as in like feet?
Yeah, so we don't need to. Ryan's got
let's get it.
basically.
No,
I have an
he's got time.
Instagram. I have
He's got
Instagram. I made an Instagram
I've
James
got a
Willems. I
minute
said,
for
what am
this.
I possibly going to ever use this for? So I would only take pictures of my feet. But and it was like at a time where I was traveling a lot, so it'd be like my feet with the Eiffel Tower in the background, or my feet in a beautiful beach somewhere or whatever.
Bro, you know
so,
they
but
have,
I was like,
a
I don't know
wiki
what to
feed
do. I'm not gonna
for
do
that kind of
selfies.
stuff.
That seems self-indulgent at the time, and so I did pictures of my feet. And then eventually I was like, oh, well, I also like doing other types of content on Instagram as well. So I need an account where I can do that, where it isn't just foot-centric. So then I ended up going and making a new Instagram account called James Willems Feet, where I don't show my feet as much. That's
much.
the thought process there. And then the only other thing I would shout out is I just also, like Elyse, I just kicked off a new podcast.
And what's that
Called
called?
Oh, hell yeah.
Trash for Trash.
Trash
It is
for
a
Trash.
movie podcast with a friend and coworker, Patrick Brown. We watch bad movies so you don't have to.
I
Oh,
love
that's
that.
awesome. I need to get on this. You gotta throw me in the fire there.
It's
I
a
need
novel
to watch
concept,
something.
I know. Two guys watching
You
bad
gotta get
movies,
Ryan
but
on.
it's fun. Yeah,
If you ever
we're
have
totally.
guests, yeah,
We have. Well,
like,
we've only done 2 episodes so far. So we did Gym Kata, which is a movie about a gymnast who uses the most deadliest martial arts on the planet, gymnastics.
No way.
And then we also did, second episode is Munchie, which is a almost like Gremlins if it was made by a meth head. So
I've never even heard of these. Oh my god,
Yeah,
this is
I've
incredible.
never heard of
Yeah.
that stuff. All right, well,
Yeah,
You're
that's.
taking me to film school.
I would love to see. I'm definitely gonna check that out, and I'd love to see what Ryan has to say. Apparently, we have some people's recommendations as well for bad movies.
Oh, awesome.
All right, cool. Well, thank you guys for joining
Thank
us.
you.
People on the stream, we streamed every week, Tuesdays and Wednesdays at the same time. So we'll see you. We'll see you around. Congratulations to the winners of our giveaway. We'll send those out shortly. Otherwise, James, Elyse, Ryan, thanks one more time for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Albert.
thank you.
Thank
Alright.
you for having us.
See ya, everyone.
Bye.